What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to talk about what's going on with NIO stock and break down why NIO may see a bounce tomorrow as we're getting very close to earnings. So I'm going to talk about that and then break down some important things to remember and also how the market could affect NIO. Before I do anything like this, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And then don't forget about the Moomoo link. The offer ends very soon. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks plus a $50 cash reward. The offer ends in 4 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, now let's talk about the market, how everything's looking. So when we look at NIO, one of the things I mentioned is that we had this bullish divergence that was developing on it, and it's very likely that this thing may get a bounce very soon because we're getting very close to earnings. But it's not just because of NIO. When we look at the market's in a very interesting state. The market could also help NIO to some extent. I'm going to break down exactly why that is. But first, let's talk about some data. So there's nothing really coming out tomorrow. We have the Dallas Manufacturing Index report. That's coming out 1 hour after the market opens. Besides that, there isn't really like anything else. I mean, for Tuesday, we have the JOLTS job numbers. Then for Wednesday, there's nothing really that big except for like some GDP numbers. But the real important days are going to be Thursday and Friday when we have the PCE data. The inflationary numbers are going to be coming out from the Fed. And then finally, for Friday, we have the unemployment numbers. So it's going to be an interesting week. We're going to start off very slow with data. So nothing too much for tomorrow. And then when it comes to earnings, tomorrow we just have a couple of others, nothing too big. But then for Tuesday, before the market opens here in the USA, NIO is going to be announcing their earnings. And as NIO approaches it, there's a good chance this thing may get a bounce as we're starting to see it making some headlines. So that's a very, very good thing that's going on. There was this news that came out for NIO that NIO scored a major goal with a deal to become Oslo's taxi's first choice supplier. That is going to be very good for the overall autonomy technology and the robo-tax that NIO has been working on. Now, say what you want about this technology, but at the end of the day, for a NIO investor, this would be bullish news from their perspective. I'm not saying this to be ignorant in a way. I'm just simply stating this because it's important for NIO investors to know this. And this technology is inevitable at this point. I mean, AI is continuing to advance, so there's no stopping this technology in its development, in my opinion. More and more companies and competitors will keep on hopping on with it. And for that reason, I mean, even though it may disrupt other industries, it still is technically bullish news for NIO because the overall, self-driving technology and the autonomous driving is going to be $1 trillion industry as time goes on, in my opinion. It's going to be very big for people, very, very big. It's going to lead to some interesting changes. And we're going to be watching to see how this affects NIO. So this is a good deal that was signed by NIO. On top of all of that, when we look at NIO's Twitter page, we can see it right over here. NIO is talking about the ET5T again, the way you can travel in style with it, which is a very, very awesome vehicle. And I'm very excited for what the future holds for them. So anyways, when it comes to NIO, what do I see on the chart? So NIO came down to about 10.48, but notice something very interesting. This is what I was calling out, guys. I was calling this out earlier. I was telling you guys that NIO was going to base very soon. It's going to bounce. And I was telling you this based off the technical developments, based off our strong support right here in this 10.5 area. And look what happened, okay? Look at the past week. Did NIO really crash this week? The past week? No, it didn't. It came down to what? 10.6, bounced a little bit, came down to 10.5, bounced, 10.5, bounced, 10.5, bounce, 10.48, bounce. And it got the bigger drop when Jerome Powell was speaking. So remember when Powell talked, the market tanked pretty hard. At least initially, right? Initially, it tanked before it bounced. Well, NIO came down with the market because of that. It had nothing to do with NIO fundamentally. And notice how it continued to make these lows. It's been on this like slight downtrend, but it's trying to base here. It's trying to form a very strong base here. It's getting ready for a bounce. Now, the MACD has been trending upwards. The RSI is telling us it's gaining strength. It's gaining strength right here. It's kind of like when you're, on a trampoline, okay, right? You're not going to like fall through the trampoline. You're bouncing and bouncing and bouncing, and eventually a big bounce is coming once you build that momentum. And that's what's happening to NIO. This is like the trampoline. It's bouncing, it's bouncing. It's about to get a big push to the upside, in my opinion. So with earnings right here coming out for Tuesday before the market opens, the last close for NIO is going to be Monday. As we approach its earnings, with the triple bullish divergence, this could help NIO bounce. And I think there's a high probability of NIO retesting the 11s. 11.3 is going to be probably tested, if not broken, this imbalance right here. And if it breaks that, I'm going to be watching this thing get to 11.6. If it breaks 11.6, it's going to push to $12. We could see a nice push to the upside, a nice 5+% green day. I think the odds greatly favor that. Now, one thing that could be a little concerning would be the setups on SPY and Tesla and etc. There's a head and shoulders forming on SPY, but there's also the possibility it's a trap because when the bears tried to attack the market when Powell was speaking, they lost. The bulls came in and they pushed the market up looking at the 4-hour time frame. So with this, possible head and shoulders, if we do get a rejection off this like 442 level, this could slow NIO down if the market slows down. But if we break it, and this is just like a trap, a fake out, we could just keep going. We could see this thing break to 444 next. If it gets to this imbalance at 444, 446.32 is next. If it breaks that high, I expect it to come all the way up to at least 451 or so. It's going to see 451 if it breaks this high. That's going to be our trigger. I think the odds greatly favor that potentially happening. But first, we have to see if the market could break this resistance. That's going to be our confirmation. For Tesla, it's no different, basically. Tesla's going to be testing 242. We have a head and shoulders like pattern developing, but they don't always play out. If it keeps going and breaks like 244, and this is like a trap, if it gets above the 200 EMA, it's going to push all the way up to 250 plus. There's a real possibility of Tesla doing that. But if the head and shoulders plays out, if Tesla rejects off 442, then we could see this sink a bit, and that could slow NIO down for the later days of the week. So I'm open-minded. I'm open to anything. For now, we're going to be watching the test. Do we get the rejection or not? That's going to be determined by the news coming out for tomorrow. I can't truly predict that in a way, but I'm going to be open-minded just by watching the levels, and we will see which way the market breaks. For the QQQ, there's a possible head and shoulders. If it breaks above 367, however, it could push all the way up to about 372. So if it breaks and holds the 200 EMA, 367 is going to be your area of resistance. It has the potential to push up nicely. If it rejects off the 200, it's going to come all the way down and start pushing back below 360. So we're going to be watching that test on there. The market could slow NIO down later on during the week. I was talking about this possibility if we start to see the head and shoulders play out. But if they don't play out, that's going to be an extra boost for NIO because NIO is, or it has a tendency of being dictated by the market to a large extent. Now, the market's going to try to push initially, and we'll see if the market gets a rejection or not. If the market keeps going, this is going to help NIO push even harder. If the market rejects, NIO may hold up nicely for Monday, but I'm not as sure about Tuesday and Wednesday, as that's going to depend on NIO's earnings and etc. But nonetheless, guys, I believe the odds greatly favor a nice push up on NIO. I think 11.3 is going to be on the table. NIO has the potential to break that level, and to break above that could push this thing to about 11.6 plus. And then if that breaks, $12 is on the table. But I think at the very least, we're going to see NIO get a nice green day, start pushing to the upside. Should make its way up to at least 11.6, hopefully. And it's right before earnings. When earnings comes out, it's going to be very telling. Don't forget, we also have some other pieces of data, such as deliveries coming out for the end of this week. Not to mention some big data from the PCE reports to the unemployment numbers at the end of the week for the entire market. So those are going to be very big for NIO. Make sure we pay attention to the news and what happens to go down. And with that said, have a great, great, great Sunday, everyone out there. Please enjoy what life has to offer. I'm going to be going to the movies later on today. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, and peace out.